Okay, so who remembers queries from Web Fundamentals? Anybody? Somebody? Nobody?
MySQL query?
MySQL queries? Yeah, we all kind of remember this select star from whatever table. Keeps it pretty simple, right? So what we're going to do today is we're going to work on adding some ninjas to a database. We're also going to work on, as I said, reading those ninjas from the database, and we're going to display those on the screen. And then the other thing we're going to do is just delete them. That's going to be kind of the tail end of the whole thing. So first, what we want to do is actually create a new diagram in here. So if we go New Model, this is MySQL Workbench. Hopefully you guys have this installed. So I can just add a diagram. And then we're going to click on this little guy to actually add a table. And we'll call this table Ninjas. All right. So what do we want to add? We want to add a Ninja ID. Okay. And this is going to be, after I do this, you'll see it's primary key. I don't actually know what NN stands for.
Not null.
Not null. Right. Very good, Joel. Thank you. And then I also want it to be auto-incremented. So each time I add a new one, we're going to move our ID up by one. All right. We want to have a first name. Okay. And that's going to be varchar, not 256, 255. Oh, that was already right. Okay. And then we'll have a last name. Same thing. And then we will have an email as well. Same thing. Somebody's happy. All right. And then we're going to add some timestamps here. So we're going to have created at and updated at. So that'll just be a date time there. Updated at.
Is there any
date time.
issue with setting the default expression of those date times to now and now update on now?
You can do that in the actual query. Right here, you're just dictating what data type it should be.
Yeah,
Well, I think he's saying
but
doing it
set
over
the date
here.
time so that when you create someone new, you don't have to write a new date time in there every time. It's defaulted on there. And when you write these long queries, they can get pretty lengthy on there. I don't know. I thought it'd be easier to.
So I think this is what we need to do, because I like where you're going with that, but I don't think we want to do it for created at, because we actually don't want to update that every single time we make a change to that, right? So let's leave it off in created at and just do it for updated at, and let's see if that works. Yes.
So they did this in the example, but the difference was created at was just a now, but updated at was now and then also on update now. So I thought that maybe.
Oh, that was the expression. It sort of parsed it out like that.
Now on update now.
Do you guys know where that is in the platform? Because that would be nice to do. Oh, okay. Well, I don't think we're gonna go that far. All right. So let's just stick with. We'll do the updated part, and then when I get a chance, I'll try to check out that video, and maybe I can post it up on Mattermost and just say, hey, everybody, look at this. This is where that's happening. All right. So now that we have this this little model here, let's actually turn it into a schema. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on this, and we're going to name the schema Dojo Schema. All right. Now, what we want to do is we want to what's called forward engineer this to actually turn it into a database. So let's go. Oops.
It's under a database.
Yes. Yes, it is. Thank you. All right. So we're going to accept everything in here. These are all my connection properties and so forth. Continue. Okay, so these are the actual queries that are being run when we do our forward engineer. You can see we're setting some old unique keys. We're creating the schema if it does not exist. So if it exists, we're going to not even get inside here, right? We wouldn't use Dojo Schema. And then we're going to create the table if it doesn't exist. So if we don't actually have the ninjas table, let's make it. All right. Let's do this. Successfully done. That's great. So let's go back into our, oops, let me just close out of this. Well, how do I get back into my,
You can just like do add diagram, then travel back to the home page portion of the database.
View home.
why do I not have any view right now? Oh, view home. Gives me nothing. Connect to database. Don't want to do that. No. All right. Sorry. I'm just going to restart it. Okay. Sorry about that. There's probably a better way to get back home, but when all else fails. All right. So here we go. We have our databases down here, and we have our Dojo schema, so that's fantastic. If I click on tables here, there's my Ninjas table. So let's just select all from it right now. So we'll go, first let's use Dojo schema. Okay, and then the lightning thing means that we're going to run our query. You can see down there, it ran successfully. Is it too small?
A little bit.
Let me see if I can make this bigger. No.
I don't think so.
Eduardo was able to make this bigger? Oh, he was not. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys.
Pull the bottom output section up a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely do that, I think. Oops. Okay. Cool. All right, so we're now using the correct schema. Let's just then select all from it. So select all from Ninjas, run that guy. And you can see we've got nobody in there right now, so that's cool. Let's add some Ninjas to this table to begin with. I would like to add Joel to start things out because you've been so helpful today. Insert into Ninjas. Okay. And then we have to list out the columns that we're inserting. So we're going to go first name, last name, email, and then we'll do created at, and then let's just skip updated at. Hopefully our expression will work. And we'll say values, Joel, whoops, Sarbo, Joel at z.com. All right, and then our created at is going to be now. So let's go with that, close it out. All right, run this guy. Hey, cool. So we did get an updated at by putting that default expression in there. So yeah, definitely something you guys would probably want to do just to keep things nice and simple. All right, let's add a few more here. So let's add William Chung, right? And then we'll say William at c.com. Boom. All right, so we got two. Let's get one more in there. I'm going to go with Justin Liu. All right, and we'll say, oops, JJ at jj.com. All right, so we got three Ninjas in our schema here, or in our Ninjas table. So now let's actually work on displaying these guys in Flask. So let's open up our VS Code here. And what's the first thing we need to do when we're starting a project? So I've got a folder already for it. We have to activate our environment. That's correct. So let's do source up a couple levels, and then we'll go into environments. I've got a Flask environment. Bind activate. Let me make this bigger too. Ooh, I like how fast it was making it bigger. This is great. It's a good day today, people. All right, so we activated it. Let's see what's inside it. Pip list. I've got Flask, of course. I don't yet have PyMySQL, and we're actually going to need PyMySQL in order to make our connection. So let's do pip install. So So we'll go pi MySQL. Okay, successfully installed. Excellent. So let's create some files. Let's actually create our app file. So boom, server.py. What am I going to import here? Flask itself. I'm probably also going to need request, right? Render template. Anything else?
MySQL.
Date time? Why would we need that here? It's a good guess though. Because actually our database is going to be, we're going to have our queries basically create those date times for us. Yeah, we're not using session today, so I think we're pretty good. Unless something else comes up that we need, then we can add it.
MySQL.
Correct. Yeah, we will need that in a minute. But let's just get the app running first. So app is going to be, we're going to do an new instance of Flask, and we're going to run that against name. And then down here we'll say if name equals main, meaning if we're running this file directly, then we want to actually do app.run. And then we'll say debug equals true so that we get that nice hot reloading. Okay. Anything else?
Question here.
Yeah.
Does the port that we're running Flask on and the port MySQL do those have to match?
No, they should not match. If you tried to run it on the same port that MySQL is running, you would most likely run into some kind of error. It would say address already in use. Yeah. So by default, Flask is going to run this on port 5000, which is fine for us. All right.
Question.
Yes.
Steve and I have a question.
Okay.
We both don't understand what you've written so far under the render template, like all of that. What does that do? I know the bottom thing like runs the app.
Okay.
What is that?
So line 3, you're having some trouble with?
The line
I know we
3.
need it. I just don't really know.
Okay. So basically what it means is we are creating a Flask app against the name of the current file. So if the current file is being run directly, what is the name of the current file? You guys remember? So it's going to be dunder main dunder. If it's some other file, like if it was, say, I don't know, other.py, that name would actually be other. So all we have to pass to create a new instance of the Flask class, all we have to do is pass the name of the current file. That's all.
Would it work if you didn't have that if name equals name down there?
Yes, it would.
Because I think I was doing that yesterday without the.
Yeah, it would definitely work. So the only thing this check does really, and it's not going to affect us in any way, but if we were importing this file from some other code that was actually running it, then we wouldn't actually it wouldn't invoke app.run because name in that case would not be main, name would be whatever the name of the file was. So the name of our file here is server. So if we were running this code from somewhere else, name would equal server, which means that we wouldn't get inside of our if block. Okay? You guys still kind of fuzzy on that, or?
So you're basically saying if you're trying to run it from somewhere else, it's not going to run the app.
Correct. Yeah. So maybe if we were doing testing or something like that, and we were importing this code into some other module, maybe we wouldn't want the app to run. Okay. So yeah, not really a big deal, but we're just going to stick with how the platform's doing it for now. So let's do Python server.py. Get it started. Okay, so we're running our server. Do we have any routes yet? No. So let's make one. All right, so app.route. Our route is just going to be index, and then we'll have a def index. Okay. We're going to want to render a template though, so for now let me just put pass in here so that it doesn't growl. Okay, so let's create a templates folder. And here I'm actually going to have a subfolder Because what if this app started to get quite large and we had different things, like we had dojos templates, cities templates, whatever.
Those are files.
Did I just, sorry about that. Sometimes I do that. All right, let me get rid of that. Let's do a folder. It seems like my icon's changed or something. All right, so templates. And then inside of that, we're going to have a folder called ninjas. Okay, and then inside there, we'll have a file called index.html. All right, get some boilerplate real quick, and then we'll say h1 hello from ninjas. Okay, cool. So we've got our templates ready to go. And actually, I'm going to change our route so that it's /ninjas. All right. So in here, all we're going to do is we're just going to return a render template. And then, so instead of index.html, which we've gotten used to doing, we're actually going to say ninjas /index.html.
So you don't have to reference the template folder then.
Because Flask is already looking in that folder by default. Yeah, so then the next thing that we're referencing is the Ninja subfolder and then index.html. So let's see if our route works. So I'm going to go localhost 5000 ninjas. Cool. We're good to go. So yeah, a little golf clap on that one. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to actually retrieve all of the ninjas that we've grabbed so far. So let's figure out how we're going to do this. The platform gives you a file here that we can add to our project, and this is going to enable us to make a MySQL connection. All right, and as you can see, see how we're importing pymysql.cursors? So that's why we had to do the pip install on pymysql, because we're going to use that with this connection file. Another thing I should add too is that sometimes there's this little handy copy button over there. I've been told that it's not so great to use this. Whoops. Because what happens is you may end up with some hidden characters in there that are going to mess things up for you. So instead what you're going to want to do is just grab this like this and then just do your own copy paste. All right? Oh, wow. Okay. That could definitely mess you up.
Has everyone turned on white space? Like the little dots for white space?
Oh yeah, I haven't mentioned that, but I have that turned on here. I don't know if you guys can see
Turn
it.
it on because it'll help you like get rid of the extra spaces. Wait, what is that?
Completely agree. So there's a white space setting.
You need the rainbow too.
Yeah, I do rainbow.
Is it in
I
here?
have rainbow in my white space because it adds sometimes when you copy and paste, it'll add like 8 extra spaces on the end of certain lines.
Is that in settings or is that in?
Render white space at the bottom.
Oh, all right. Render white space. Yeah. Okay. So there it is. Yeah, if you guys turn that on, you'll be able to see any hidden characters that you didn't know about. So yeah, that'll come quite in handy. So let's actually create this MySQL connection file that we just copied from the platform. All right. Yeah. It's always fun to do some copy pasting. All right. So and here, actually, we're not going to look at this here because it's too squashed.
Is there a
Actually,
reason why it's squashed like that?
there we go. That's a little
No,
better, right?
like, so you see how lines 7 through 12, everything's indented super far?
Yeah.
It's because it's all part of.
It's just for readability. It makes absolutely no difference. Yeah, because I guess if we didn't have indentation, if we pulled it like all the way back to the start of the line, that could potentially cause a problem with Python.
I see.
That's all it's doing. Yeah, it's just lining things up so that we can see them better. So in our case, this is kind of important. The actual user of our MySQL needs to be listed here. So if yours is different, put that in. The password should be whatever the password is. Mine's just root, so I'll use that. And then some of this code you guys would be able to read. Some of it you probably wouldn't be able to read. If we're doing pymysql.connect, looks like we're just running a function there, right? Self.connection equals connection. So we're creating this new instance of a connection, and we're just establishing that this particular attribute is going to be the connection that we just made here. And then down here, this is how we're actually going to query our database, is we're going to run the query_db method. And as you can see, that's going to take in some query, and it's also going to take, it's potentially going to take in some data. So as you can see, we've established that data is going to be none by default. If we want to provide it something, we will, and we will provide it with a dictionary. Okay? And then this is essentially just doing some logic here. If query.lower.find, so if we're inserting something, then we actually want to return the ID of the last row that we just inserted.
Is that a greater than equal?
Right. Yeah.
What is that?
Well, basically what that's saying is that if this specific phrase appears, so if it appears, you would get, I believe, the index of where it is.
Right.
So the index could be 0 if that's the very start of your statement. Does that make sense?
Logic, but how did you type that character?
Oh, I see your problem. Fira code. I'm going to put instructions up on Mattermost for you guys because I get asked this all the time. It's just you have to install this font on your machine and then enable ligatures in VS Code.
So if I copy pasted this code into my VS Code, it will just display as
It won't look this way, yeah, until you actually make that change. But yeah, I know it looks kind of cool, and I'm a big fan. So I'll put up the instructions so you guys can do it. All right. Down here, if we're doing a select, if our query has select in it, then we're going to do like a fetch all type of situation. Okay. Which means that what are we going to get back? It actually says right here. A list of dictionaries. Yeah, so that's something to be aware of. If we're doing some kind of a query and we're trying to do a fetch by ID, are we going to get one record?
We do fetch by ID.
Yep. Using this code. Well, it would be one record, but it would be in what kind of data structure? A list. Yes, we'd have a list, and assuming that we'd actually found that particular record, we'd have a list that had one thing in it. All right. So that's kind of a key point, because sometimes when people run a query, they're like, but I just specified an ID. Why am I getting a list? Well, because that's what a select query is going to return us. It's going to return us an actual list. All right. Else, if we're just doing an update or delete query, then we're basically just going to commit whatever query we started to run here. Okay. So we're creating an executable from the query and the data, and then if it's going to be this type of a query, we're just going to commit it. So basically make that query run. Then finally we have this caught exception. So if something went wrong, we're going to get this. It's going to print something went wrong along with the error, return false. And then finally, we will close the connection. So what do you guys think this means about our connections? Can we reuse them? No, because the connection will be closed after each query that we run. Okay? So we'll have to create a new one if we want to run a secondary query. All right? Any questions about this file? Nope.
So do we have multiple connections in the same file, or do we have to have multiple files for multiple connections?
You're just going to have one. We're going to import this same code, but if you want to create multiple connections, say in one particular route method, you would need to establish them one after another. Because once you've run a query using that specific connection, it's closed. So we got to create a new one. All right?
If the connection is closed, but the class instance is still there, every query we run, are we just going to have lots of instances of...
So you would create a new instance to run your next query. All right.
Not like a waste of window on all those class instances just hanging out afterwards.
Well, think of it this way. We're going to have, let's say we have a MySQL variable that we're assigning to some instance, right? Once that connection has been closed, let's just reassign that variable to another, a new instance. Python also has garbage collection. So now we're not even pointing at that first instance, so what do you think is going to happen to that? Should be collected.
Or we can use the same thing, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so we'll have one variable and we'll just point it to our new connection if we need to, run a second query. So not too bad. All right, so let's go inside of our server.py. We need to actually import. There's a function down here that we didn't talk about. This is the actual to connect to MySQL. It just takes a database name. So that is the name of our schema. All right, so let's import connect to MySQL. So up here, come down here from MySQL connection, we will import connect to MySQL. We got a little bit of autocomplete there, which I'm liking. All right, so let's just, when we hit this index route, or it's not really the index route, let's change it to ninjas. When we hit that route, let's just run a query to actually pull all the ninjas, and we'll just print them out in the terminal. See what they look like. All right. So what we need to do is we need to do MySQL equals connect to MySQL, and then we're going to give it the name of the schema. So ours was called Dojo schema. And then we're going to run some queries. So let's say MySQL query DB is the method that we get. And then what's our query going to look like?
It's a string. Select all.
Going to be a string, so we're going to do a select all from, like that. Okay? And so let's just print what we got back. So print, we actually have to save this to something. I'm going to change this back because otherwise I'm going to have a name conflict. So we'll say ninjas equals whatever we get back from running our select all query. All right? And then we'll print those so we can see what they look like. Okay, let's open up our terminal again. And let's hit this route one more time. Okay. Whew. Sorry about this. It's kind of squashed in there, and it's definitely not very readable or pretty, but you can see that all the data is in here. So we've got our square brackets, which are telling us this is a list. And then inside each list, you can see is a separate dictionary for each one of those ninjas that we entered. So you got ID 1. I'm not sure where ID. Here's ID 3. That's our the last one that we entered. Yeah, and then ID 2 is right up in there. Yep. Okay. So that looks good. We've got everything we need. We can send those along to our template to display those. So let's say over here, ninjas equals ninjas. I'll get rid of this since we know we're getting them back. Save that. And then inside of our template, let's just create a little table. So again, we'll go table,thead, th times 3, because I think first, last, email. Oh, I'm going to do times 4. You guys will see why in a minute. And then we'll go up a couple levels, and then we'll do tbody, trow, and then I want td times 4. Whew. Isn't that autocomplete excellent? So what we're going to have here is we're going to have first name, last name, then email, and then we're going to have this little actions column. And we won't use that right now, but later on when we want to delete ninjas, we'll use that. All right, and then since I want to iterate through these guys, how am I going to do that? Some Ginger logic, yes. I think we should start calling her Ginger, right?
Ginger.
Just like so it's a nice familiar term, like let's get Ginger involved. So we'll say for ninja in ninjas. Okay, and then we want to make sure to end our for loop down here. And for, okay, cool. So inside here, what we want to do is we want to take each individual property that we're displaying. So we're going to go ninja first name. Actually, maybe I'll just push this down. So let's go boom, 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 boom. I did that too many times, didn't I? If you guys have any questions about the shortcuts that I'm using, go ahead and ask. But line duplication comes in handy all the time. So I'll just change this to last email, and this one is going to be empty for now because we don't have any actions. All right. Any questions about what we did here with the template? No. Let's see if they showed up. Uh-oh. Something went wrong, right? Notice how they appeared like outside of where they were supposed to appear. Why is that?
It's because the for loop is ending inside of that first TD. That last one.
Oh, geez. Wait, what? Where did I end my
Isn't
for loop?
everything going into that TD that you have empty right now?
Oh yeah, it should be like the for loop should be in the table row, right? No.
No.
Could we go back to
Oh, Joel's right. It should be in the table row.
T-head, T-head. Oh, I ended the table. Whoa. Why did that happen? It must have been something with my autocomplete. I think, oh, I know what happened. I went up too far. So when I did the hat, I guess I should have just done hat. All right. Sorry about that, guys. So that's what it was. All right, so let's try that again. Aha. All right. So this is pretty exciting. We're actually getting things from our database and displaying them in the template. We're just sort of putting the puzzle pieces together. All right. Now let's make this a little bit more interesting. What do you say we enable the ability to create some of these guys on our page? All right. So what do I need to create? Form. And then let's say, so we've got how many inputs? 3. So let's do something like div label, and then we'll go label plus. I need to surround this too. So label plus input, and it's going to be type text. I'll change the email one probably. And then we'll do times 3. All right. Doesn't look as great as I'd like, so I'm just going to fix the formatting a little bit. So labels here. My inputs are here. Do that. All right. Cool. All right, so first name. Call that first name. Whoa. All right, last name. And then email, we'll actually change the type on this one to email. Does anybody know what that does? It does give you some validation, yeah. So if I try to enter in an invalid formatted or something that's not formatted correctly, it should give me some kind of an error. All right, and then I always forget for some reason to include a button at the end, but this time I remembered. Button submit. Cool. All right, so let's render it out. We actually have our form. Ooh, that looks pretty awful, doesn't it? What's that?
did you put last
Yeah, you didn't put last name. Under the label.
Oh, labels. Yeah, you're right. I was just thinking about the styling of it, but yeah, you're right. Last name, probably important to have so our users know like, what are you supposed to put in here, right? Let's just create a static folder, and we'll just put a single style.css. And inside here, we'll just say form is going to have some margin top of 30 pixels. Okay, now we actually have to link it in the template. So we'll do link and then use our URL for. So static file name equals style.css. And then we got to close this out and close out this. All right, cool. Let's see if that held. Great. Our form is not so close there. So what else do we need to do now that we have this form? The form has to have some action and some method, right? What's our action going to be? Let's just do it to /ninjas, but it's actually going to be what kind of request? I think I heard it over there. Louder. Yes, post. I'm going to have you guys shout out. All right, so method equals post. Okay. So the way that we're going to be able to differentiate this in the server is by saying what methods that particular route accepts. Okay, so let's just do, I just realized we're going to need redirect up here, right? So let's bring it in. Right? Now we'll have an app.route of ninjas, only this time we're going to specify the methods. All right? What does methods have to be? What? A list. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. So yesterday we ran into an issue. Maybe some of you, some others may have run into this issue. If you pass methods a string, you're going to get an error on that. It needs to have a list of methods. So in our case, we're really only going to accept post. That's it. Okay. And then we'll have a def. So add. I don't know, add ninja, okay. And then inside there, let's just print out what we got from the form. Sound good? So let's say print request dot form, and then we'll return a redirect to the ninjas route. Yeah, so keep in mind that this one right here on line 11, it only accepts GET requests. So if we don't supply the methods argument for this, it's only going to do GET requests. And then in the second case, we're only accepting POST requests, so there's not going to be a conflict there. All right, so that should be good. So let's enter some stuff in our form. All right. Just enter myself here. All right, and then let's check our terminal, see if we're getting our form stuff as we expect. Okay, so that was a GET request, probably because I hadn't refreshed the page. Yeah, so if you guys notice here, we've got all that stuff up in the oh, I guess making that bigger won't make the URL box bigger, but you can see like all of the things that I entered in the form showed up there because I had changed our template code, but I hadn't actually refreshed the page. So it was showing us the old version. So let's go like that. Now our form should be better. So let's go. Okay. Coding.com. Why does it say we're getting a GET request there?
That's after the redirect.
Oh, yes it is. Okay, so here's what we're printing here, the immutable multi-dict. Okay, so this is our first name, our last name, and our email. That's the one that's actually coming from the form. And then, as Joel mentioned, we redirected, so of course we're getting a GET request in the second case. All right, good. So let's, inside of here, let's actually do something with this form data that we got in. So what do we need to create to do stuff with MySQL? Connection, right? Okay, same schema. Okay, and then we're going to execute a query. So let's say MySQL dot query db, and then our query in this case is going to be a little different. So we're going to say insert into ninjas, and then before we actually had, we were kind of not hard coding, but we were doing it in MySQL Workbench, so we were inserting actual values. What do you think I need to do in this case? Because I don't know what the values are going to be. Yeah, so we're going to be pulling from request.form, but we actually need to put inside of our query some placeholders, which will enable us to actually sort of fill that data in based on whatever came in through the form. So the way that we do that is like this. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
So this is how we're going to put in individual things. So I'm going to do, oops, I need to do the columns first though. Okay, so the columns that we're talking about were first name, last name, email, and then the only thing that we need to insert was created at, because our updated at was being done for us, which is good. And then we're going to say values, whoops. Actually, I'll do that in caps so you guys can see that those are keywords in SQL. And then the values are going to be just this collection of values. So the first one is going to be first name. Second one will be last name. Actually, let me just copy this guy. So last, then we're going to have email. Okay, and then the only other thing that we need is now, which is going to be our created at. Okay. Now, how do we get the data into these placeholders here? Let's look back at MySQL connection. Notice, or this file, let me close this out for you so you can see it better. Okay, so notice how when we query DB, the optional second argument, because if we don't provide it, it's going to be none, is going to be the data. All right, so we need to also provide our data in here. And the way we're going to do that is in the form of a dictionary. Well, what is the form data that we just got? Is it already a dictionary? It is, isn't it? Let's try to just use that. All right. Good. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute that query, and then we're going to just redirect to Ninja. So theoretically, if everything goes right, we should be able to insert somebody. Let's give it a try here. Let's insert Stevie. Samuels? Yeah, let's go. You are the next ninja on The Ninja is Right. All right, Stevie. That's it. Yeah, American Ninja. Right, that's a good one. Boom. Just adding like that. Who else do we want to add? Deanna. And I'm going to try to spell your name right. Ah. One more letter? Is it H? Yes! Boom. All right, Deanna at h.com. Cool. So we're getting the C part of our, we're actually getting our C and our R, right? Yes, William. Yeah, let's try that. Good idea. So let's just put Bob. There we go. So it's just giving you some sort of light HTML5 validation.
What if you do Bob at Gmail, like, because we don't have logic validations for first name and last name.
Correct. Yeah, we don't have any validations here, so we could have some records that have no first name and last name.
And MySQL, that would just come up as null, right?
Actually, it would be a blank string here because the value of this input right now is just going to be a blank string. If there's nothing in that input, just empty string. That's it. Yeah.
So that's considered to be a client-side validation.
what was going on down here, yes,
But
that's correct.
What if we actually inspect the HTML file and then change the type from email to text? Will we be able to like enter any
Circumvent that? Yeah, of course. And that's why your validation, when it comes to validations, the most important validation is the back-end validation. Okay? Because that's ultimately where your data is going to end up. If it's going to go in the database and it's improperly formatted, or you're allowing people to enter things they shouldn't have entered, well, that's a big problem. It's less of a problem if they're able to think that they're going to add something on the front end. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work on the back end, right? So our back end validations are of utmost importance. Mm-hmm.
Will you go back to your server.py page?
Sure.
So the way that they taught us, right, like instead of doing this MySQL query DB portion,
Mm-hmm.
you just write query equals and write the query.
Mm-hmm.
And then you write the data.
Sure.
And write that, and then you do like MySQL query DB, and then put query and data in there.
Right.
I have a question. Does that change? Do you have to put these in quotes?
No, it's going to be exactly the same. So if I were to take this here, so we'll say query equals that string. And then we could say data. If we wanted to be really verbose, we can create our own little dictionary. We could say first name, request.form, first name. So and so on. We could do the whole thing. And that wouldn't change anything. So here, if I just excuse me, if I just pass in the query and request.form, we should still have the same logic working here. So let's add one more just to make sure. So Alan, tell me your last name, Alan.
Lee?
Okay, that'll be an easy one to remember. Alan@lee.com. Still works. Same thing. Yeah.
But the name has to match, right?
Yes, this is an important point. So these names in here have to match the keys in the dictionary. Otherwise, you'd have a problem. Basically, we'd be trying to get a key that didn't exist, and you guys have run into that error before, I know. It'll should essentially throw an error. Remember how we have this little catch block in here? So if we hit an exception here, it would actually throw an error in our code. Or it would return, excuse me, it's just going to return false. Okay? But for now we're okay because we know that these keys are going to match. But again, if somebody were to change those inputs on the front end, like they could change the actual names of those inputs, then we could actually return false. But it wouldn't allow it to enter it into the database because the names of these keys would not match. All right? Cool. Now the only other thing that we need to do is figure out how to delete these guys. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a little link inside of our actions column here. And let's just go like this. We'll say ahref, and then the link is just going to say delete. What route do you think I want to do for this? I want these to be different for each ninja because it needs to be. Otherwise, if I'm trying to delete Alan, for instance, and instead I delete William, well, that's not going to work. So I need to actually differentiate by ID. So let's just output that in here. So we'll say ninja at ID. Okay. And then our route is going to be delete, like that. I think I ended up with an extra quote in here somewhere. Was something wrong with this? Does anybody know why this is?
I want you to get single quotes because it's in between a double quote.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Let's do that. Thank you. All right. Woo. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's just have that as is. Let's refresh the page, and then let's see what that looks like when we inspect the HTML. So when we look at these links, oops, let's just do view page source. Give us a better look here. Okay, so cool. For each ninja, I've got a ninjas and then / their ID and then a delete. So we're good to go. We just need to create an actual route that would be able to handle this. All right, so let's come back to our code here. And then inside server, let's create a route to delete. Okay, so my route is going to be / ninjas. And then how do I insert my ID here as a placeholder?
Same way we did before.
Angle brackets. Angle brackets. Okay, delete. And then we're going to go def, oops, delete ninja, something like that. And then I need to actually take in the ID of the ninja because that's up here. So my function has to also take that in. So take in my ID. And then, of course, we're going to do a query. So we have to create this guy to MySQL Dojo schema. Okay, and then my query, I'm just going to run it. So I'm going to say MySQL.querydb. And then this one is going to look like delete from ninjas. And then we're going to say where ID equals. And then we have to do that same thing which we were doing before. This is the mogrify part. ID. So you'll see inside here there's something about mogrify, I believe. Whoa. And that's basically sanitizing the data for us to help prevent against SQL injections. So you guys will read about SQL injections in the platform a little bit. Well, his was being mogrified. We never did figure out why there was a problem there. That's an ongoing mystery. But so this is the deal. We're going to run this query. We're going to delete from ninjas where the ID equals the ID that we took in from the route. And then we're just going to redirect. Yeah, we do. Correct. And in this case, since we don't have a form that's coming in with a bunch of data, let's just create a small dictionary here. So it's just going to be ID, and that's going to be set to the ID that came in from the route, right? Okay. Good to go. Let's delete some ninjas. Close this out. Yeah, who goes first? Who's on first? Stevie? All right. Oh, Stevie. I'm so sad to see you go. All right. Alan. Boom. All right. Last man standing.
Man, what a great season this is.
Okay, Joel, you're gone.
Shot. I don't know why.
Man, William, you made it. Woohoo! All right. Cool.
Now you're the last guy on the island. Congratulations to you.
Yeah.
He gets to keep the island now.
You just won the Pi MySQL. Yes.
Since that's a get method, right?
Get method.
So what if I actually guessed your route and then I just enter ninja and then any ID I want and then delete? Will I be able to maliciously delete any user I want?
You certainly would. We have no validation against that, do we?
Unless you have a sessions validation, right?
Unless we yeah, so there are a couple things that we could do. We could make it so that you're only able to delete yourself, something like that. If we had you logged in and we had your session, this guy's ID is this, then we could theoretically prevent you from deleting other people's records. It's one way of handling it.
I'm trying to find a way to delete student loans.
I like that.
Can
Yeah,
you see the comic?
that may be a little bit trickier.
Can you see the comic in the MySQL portion? It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Was it about deleting student loans though?
No, it's
yeah.
about little Bobby tables. That's what I like to call them.
Little Bobby tables. Okay. Any questions about what we did here? The Ninjas CRD. So we did create, read, and delete.
Are we not doing update?
Not today. Nope. And then also later on, we're going to have relationships. So we didn't get into that. Do you guys remember what the relationships are that we're going to see with SQL? This is one-to-one, right? One-to-many, and what's the other one? Many-to-many. Okay. All right. So we didn't do any of that today. We just did create, read, and delete. All right. Good. Thumbs.
Yeah.
All the way up. All the way up. All right, good. If you guys have any trouble or any last minute questions, just come see me. Otherwise, let's keep working.